Hello YouTube, this is Goddard Radio Moscow here again with another beer review for you today. Now, as promised in the last couple of videos, I'm going to revisit Australia for this one. This one's a bit different though. This is a West Coast beer, whereas the other ones I've done have been East Coast beers. I always find it quite insane with Australia. A population of about 25 million for an area that is bigger than the mainland United States. It's absolutely insane, but most of the population here is concentrated on the East Coast, so most of the beers you will find are East Coast beers. But today I have a West Coast one for you, and this is the Little Creatures Pale Ale, and I'm quite interested to try this one and actually do the review for you today, because I had this one maybe a couple of years ago at the Moorings Bar in Aberdeen, and I remember thinking this was a really top quality beer, but I really cannot remember what it's like at all, so I'm really interested to do the review for you for this one today. A shout out also in this video to Tiny at Offtap Brewing. He's got some really interesting home brew videos. His house basically is full of brewing equipment, and he seems to brew all these crazy beers and things like that, so you'll find the link to his YouTube channel in the video description there, so go and support him and have a look at his videos. Some really interesting stuff there. But as is usual with my beer reviews, I'll just take you through a little bit of a history of the brewery. This is another quite interesting one to read about, but if you are simply just interested in the tasting of this beer, then feel free to fast forward towards the last few minutes of the video and you will catch that particular segment. But anyway, this brewery is based in Fremantle in Western Australia, which is just near the city of Perth, the state capital of Western Australia. But Fremantle Harbour actually serves as the port of Perth, and this is obviously a very, very big city. But the name Little Creatures apparently is inspired by lyrics from the Talking Heads album of the same name, Little Creatures. But the name also refers to the live yeast cells that turn the sugars in malt wort into alcohol during the brewing process. So quite a cool name behind this beer, I have to say. But the brewery was established in 2000 by Howard Kearns, Nick Tromboli and Phil Sexton, who had all been employees at the Matilda Bay Brewing Company, which was actually Australia's first craft brewery, having opened in 1984, and I believe it was also the first new brewery that opened in Australia since the end of the Second World War. But in 1997 the trio discussed the possibility of brewing an American style IPA, and this was ideal because Phil Sexton had worked to the development of the Bridgeport IPA during his time living and working over in the USA. But the name Little Creatures was proposed by Kearns after reading about the little creatures wandering between the alehouses in the Hobbit novel by J.R.R. Tolkien, and he thought this sounded a lot like yeast fermentation. But the Pale Ale was first brewed, this beer here, and it was first presented to the Australian market in the early summer of 2001. Now this is the weird thing about Australia, is because from us in the northern hemisphere, their seasons are opposite, so I think when they're talking about summer down there, they're actually talking about sort of January time and things like that. But Australians, if you're watching, please correct me on that, because obviously you'll know better than me about that. But in 2002 the brewery was named the Champion Australian Brewery at the Australian International Beer Brewing Awards, and this beer, the Pale Ale, was actually crowned as the champion ale of that festival. But to move on to the original brewery building itself, the original brewery building in Fremantle was originally built to house the Kookaburra yachts that were to participate in the 1987 America's Cup race, and it also served as a crocodile farm after this before it was eventually converted for use as a brewery. But today it contains a cafe where you can eat some food and sample the different Little Creatures beers, and you can also get tours of the brewery at 1, 2 and 3 PM daily. And they also have a tapas bar at another location in Fremantle which is called the Little Creatures Next Door, and this sells a lot of different craft beers and different wines, and it has a view out onto the harbour in Fremantle as well. But today they also have a second brewery in Healesville in Victoria, which is about 52 kilometres north of the city of Melbourne, and they also have a Little Creatures food hall in the city of Melbourne as well. But the new brewery over on the east coast was opened largely due to the ever-increasing demand for their beers, and so they decided that they needed a new base on the east coast of Australia. And as I say, this is where the majority of the population in the country is based. The only real big population hubs outside of the sort of eastern side of Australia, I believe, are actually Darwin in the north and Perth over in Western Australia as well. I think Adelaide is sort of, I can't remember if it's Adelaide that is a little bit into that bay at the bottom of Australia as well. But as I say, most of the population is on the east coast of Australia. But just to get on to the other beers for you, they've got a number of other ones here. They have a Bright Ale and a Rogers beer, both of which are apparently English style pale ales. They have Shepherd's Delight, Shepherd's Warning, both of which are American style amber ales. They have a Pilsner, which is a Czech version of the style, Mr. Obadiah's, which is an English porter, Green Hop Ale, which is an American pale ale, and they also have their IPA, which is a green label beer. But they also have a number of single batch beers that apparently are produced every so often, and they're available only in a very limited supply, but they're also apparently very good. But hopefully I'll be able to get a hold of some more of these Australian beers. Australian beer is actually fairly quite difficult to get over here. I mean, you can get James Bogues, VB, Little Creatures sometimes. This just the pale ale actually. I'm trying to think what the other one is you can get. I think you can get Crown Lager a little bit over here as well. I've done a review for that one, but it was a little bit harder to get. But hopefully I can get a hold of some more of the Australian craft beer. I hear there's some really good stuff out there. But the Little Creatures company today are actually part of the Little World Beverages, and this is a subsidiary of Lion Nathan, which is wholly owned by Kirin's, which makes the company essentially Japanese owned. It seems to be quite a common thing in Australia that the little craft brews are left to their own devices, but they are actually owned by a bigger parent company. But anyway, let's get on to this beer, the beer tasting itself actually. I'm, as I say, quite looking forward to trying this beer. I'll just bring the camera up and let you have a little look at the bottle and cap there. As you can see there, it has the Little Creatures logo on it. You can see a little sort of pixie guy with a beer tankard in his hand running around there, and as you can see on there it says Muse Road, Fremantle, Australia here, and on the top of the bottle you can also see there it says Little Creatures Brewing, product of Australia, which is quite cool. It's quite cool that they're quite happy to present the product of the country there. It's always quite interesting to see that. It's something we do in Scotland a lot, and as you can see there is the Little Creatures bottle cap there. I don't know if this is common for all the different Little Creatures beers, or if they're different colours or anything like that. As I say, this is the only one that we can get over here. But this one, as I said, is a 5.2% American Pale Ale, APA, and apparently it uses hops sourced from all over the world. But let's get this guy open and get on with the tasting. As I say, looking quite a lot forward to having a look at this beer. There we are. A bit of smoke coming off this one actually. It's a bit of fizz up there, but that's no problem. Sorted that. Didn't think that was going to happen there, but it happens sometimes when you're doing beer reviews. You just have to go with it, you know. But let's get this guy out. Swirl up the last little bit, get a bit of head on this beer. I have to say I recovered quite well from that one there. I've had ones that have gone crazy on me before. But anyway, as you can see, a really nice sort of bright orangey colour on this one. It's quite hazy actually if I look at it, but a really kind of bright orangey amber colour there. Maybe just a bit of finger of head on this one, just under that actually. A nice foamy head, some bigger bubbles present in there. I'm just trying to see if there's some carbonation. It doesn't actually look as if that's visible, but that might just be because it's quite hazy. I'll just wipe it up a bit and see if I can see some stuff. There are some little tiny bubbles kind of streaming up there, but overall there's not too much visible carbonation there. But let's have a look at the aroma of this guy. Very fruity smell on the nose here. A hell of a lot of citrus in there, maybe quite a lot of oranges I would say actually. You can pick that out that it is oranges in there rather than just citrus. But there's a good bit of tropical fruit in there too, maybe some pineapple, maybe just a little bit of mango. I'm not the best at picking out fruits as I say, but it smells a little bit like pineapple and mango in my opinion. But there's a good bit of sort of toffee and caramel brown sugary malts in there too. Quite interesting. There's maybe just a little bit of earthy and grassy character to the hops as well. But it's a really nice smelling beer. It has, I think this is going to be more of a citrusy IPA, but we'll see in the taste in a second. But a really nice smelling aroma. I always advise you if you're wanting to find out more about beer, just swirl it about and give it a bit of a smell before you have a taste of these things. It's always interesting and it helps you pick out the different flavours as well from what you can smell. But let's give this guy a taste. This is a good one, yeah. I can kind of remember, I'm kind of picking it up again just from the flavour there, even the bit that I got when the thing went a bit crazy on me. I'm kind of starting to remember this now. But yeah, in this one, it's a really nice balance between the malts and the hops in here. You're getting a sort of mixed opening. I was expecting it to go a bit more for an attack on the opening, but it's a bit more malty than you would expect. But it's very fruity in the opening. You're picking up a lot of the citrus in there, and the tropical fruit is more in the background in this one. This is mainly sort of citrus flavours you're getting out of here. You say quite a bit of orangey character in there, but you've got some kind of you've got this sort of tropical element to the background in there. Maybe, I'm not sure if it's maybe sort of grapefruit and maybe some mangoes or something like that. Pineapples, maybe. I was saying pineapple in the aroma, but it's not pineapple in the taste, I would say. yeah, just a little bit of grapefruit in the background, but it's mainly citrusy character I'm picking up off that. Once the fruit subsides, you're actually getting quite a bit of the malt flavours coming in. They do have quite a bit of depth, and the flavours are actually kind of coming to you, and then they're disappearing quite quickly, and it's leaving just a sort of nice kind of grassy and hoppy underlying to it. Yeah, definitely, you're getting a lot of nice kind of citrusy and just a little bit of grapefruit blended in. But then you're getting the malts coming out, you're getting a nice sort of caramel and toffee thing in there, and there's also a bit of kind of bready and yeasty flavour in there as well that the caramel's mixed in with. This is really nice, and it's actually a really quite unique pale ale in that sense. It does have that kind of bready and yeasty character, seems to be something that's sticking out in my head with this one, is that the yeasty character's making it quite unique. And on the finish, it's bitter and just a little bit fruity again. The kind of bitterness and the breadiness and fruitiness is actually what's kind of staying a little bit after. As I say, the flavours come in quite strong and then they dissipate, and then you've got just this little underlying sort of bready and yeasty character to it. This is a really, really good pale ale, I have to say. A really, really nice beer. In terms of the mouth, I would describe this one as light-bodied, but it certainly isn't lacking in flavour with it being light-bodied. This is what you have to expect from Australia. It's a very, very hot country, so their beers are going to be light in body so that they're good sessionable beers. The carbonation is quite active in this one. It makes the beer quite crisp, and as I say, it's a very, very drinkable beer. Yeah. The carbonation comes in and it makes it quite zippy actually. A really nice sort of sessionable pale ale, this one. And you just have a slightly dry finish there. And as I say, you're getting that sort of kind of sort of fruity and yeasty thing that's staying with this beer. The flavours are coming in quite sharp and then just sort of fading out into this sort of underlying flavours that you're getting from this one. But this is an awesome pale ale. I highly recommend that you try this one out. It's an awesome example actually to set for Australian beer. I mean, the major one that you seem to get abroad is Foster's, but you know, this is a million times better than Foster's. This is the Australian beer that you should really try. But anyway, I hope this beer review has been informative for you. It's been good to come back and do another Australian one. Australians, if you are watching, please recommend some more craft beer and craft breweries for me to look at. As I say, we don't get so much of your beer over here, but I'm always willing to take suggestions for breweries to look at, and I can see if I can import these. But thanks again for watching my beer reviews. I hope you've enjoyed it and found it informative. As usual, if you haven't already subscribed, please consider it. Please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Send my videos to your friends, all of that sort of thing. But I hope you've enjoyed it. I'll be back tomorrow with another beer. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing yet, but you'll catch me tomorrow with another one. And as I say, I hope you've enjoyed it. You've been watching Goddard Radio Moscow. Cheers.